Welcome back to Layman's Term. On this episode of Forgive and Forget Part 2, have you ever heard the expression forgive and forget? What if that is neither helpful nor true? We explore the profound power of forgiveness as demonstrated in Luke 7:44-48, and we discuss how our ability to forgive others expands as we recognize the depth of God's forgiveness towards us.
All right.
Luke
44.
7:44-48.
I will beat you to it.
Are you gonna be? We're gonna read it.
I'm going to read it because you
that's
did
great.
the intro thing.
That's great,
Luke
man.
7.
Usually I already have it
Well,
up from.
that's what
there
I
it is,
should have
right there.
done.
There it is. Luke 7:44.
Yeah. Then he turned towards the woman and said to Simon, "Do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little." Then Jesus said to her, "Your sins are forgiven."
Yeah.
There you go, buddy.
Let me ask you a question, Mitch.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever had a time where you like maybe underestimated the value of something, maybe monetarily underestimated the value of it, or it could be emotionally too, I guess, and then only to realize like later its true worth, and then how did that realization really kind of affect your attitude and behavior towards said item or thing?
Man, underestimating I'm more like have overestimated the value of things. Like not like thrown out some junk because it was junk and needed thrown out, but like,
Yeah.
but it still could work. Maybe
I could use this one day for
someday.
something.
I just had that experience. I was cleaning out the shop, and I do a little handyman work, some of my own stuff.
Oh, I know.
Often to some of my own detriment. But like years ago, like I would keep every little scrap, right? Like, oh man, might need that, right? This strip of oak that's 4 foot long,
Right.
3/4 inch square. That's a good one.
That's a
Might
good
need
one.
that, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's set in been propped up in a corner for 10 years.
Right.
So, I think some of that I'm more guilty of almost the opposite sometimes. But oh man, let's see. Do you have one? I'll come up with one. But
I was actually gonna tag on and say shout out to my wife if she's listening. That's exactly my wife. We've got these scraps of wood and stuff in our garage. We don't even have a barn. If we had a barn, it'd be great. I could just put it there. But it's like cluttering up the garage because she gets into these arts and crafts, and we'll have all these little like 1 by 1.5 inch by 3 foot. I got like a ton of them in the garage, pieces of plywood and stuff like that, right?
yeah, I've since learned that I think wood's just wood and it has an intrinsic value, and that is the BTUs it can create when being burned.
Yeah.
So even if it's an antique piece of furniture, its worth is found in its BTUs.
I have a pretty okay story. I remember in high school, we did in our kind of friend theater expanded friend group with the theater kids or whatever. We did like a Secret Santa.
Okay.
Right. And so everybody was invited to join, and you did like you had to kind of write a list of things that you liked or whatever, and because you didn't really know some of the people you knew really well, some of them you didn't really know. And it was cool. Like my Secret Santa got me some like Star Wars action figures, and I was like opening them up and playing with them, and stuff like that. And like, cause whatever, they should be played with. Well, the last gift was like they did when they re-released the Star Wars again in like the mid 90s, late 90s, they did a limited edition Luke Skywalker like action figure,
Doll.
like the normal little action figure. It's not a doll, it's an action figure. It's made of plastic, right? Well, anyways, my Secret Santa ended up being one of my really good friends, right? And he was like, don't open that. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, dude, all these things are worth way more in the package than opening it up.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, whatever, right? Like, I'm a teenage kid. And like I didn't think anything of it, so I just put it in a shelf in my room collecting dust, or whatever. And then like I looked it up later, like down the road, and it was like, I don't know, like
$12-14.
no, it was like $100.
Oh.
And I'm like, what the heck, or whatever. And so then I was like, well, maybe it shouldn't be on my shelf collecting dust. I'm just degrading the value of it, So anyways, I put it in a little case or whatever. I still have it. It's not collecting dust, but it's just, in a shelf somewhere. I look it up every now and then. It's still about $50 to $100, like it's not, I guess enough people, it's like Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
Right. Like everybody thought they were going to be worth a lot, but then they mass produced them. And so they really have relatively kept their value, which is not much except for a few of the really rare ones that they didn't produce a lot of. So, anyway.
So here's something. I don't have like anything cool to show you, right? Like I would like, if you just came to my house and you're like, Mitch, show me something cool.
Oh,
I'd be like,
yeah.
I have.
You don't have
nothing.
any family heirlooms or anything from
Nothing.
like I've got my old.
I have nothing cool.
Oh, dude.
Nothing. Right?
How do you not? You
have
you need to talk to Grammy and be like, can I have something cool
I don't.
that I can show people?
Nothing cool, right? and even if there might be like you could like scrummage around and like come up with like something like, oh look, this is cool. I'm like,
Sure.
You think that's cool? Okay, I guess I got something, right?
Okay,
Like,
all right, yeah.
So
yeah. You just don't you don't put any coolness value
Like,
on things that,
yeah,
that may be cool.
You may be like, oh man, oh well, this is neat. I'm like,
Yeah.
really?
Really?
Okay,
All
well,
right, I'm
all right.
going
So
with
Keith
this.
found one thing that Anyway, but so here's you made me think of bring it back to baseball here. Our friend AJ, who went to church here in his younger days, ball player. We go out and play ball up the fields, and we were out one day, and I had like my just random bats. I got little kids, so I have like the little kid bats, and then I had an old wooden bat, and then I had this aluminum bat from when I was a teenager, right? And he was a teenager. And it was just leaning up against the fence, and he got there, and he has this whole bag of bats, and the bats are expensive, and they're
Sure,
nice,
yeah.
and the technology, right? Like, and I got my bat leaning against the fence, and well, you'd think, if you do it like electronics, and it'd be like an iPhone there propped up against like an old flip phone,
Atari.
right? An old flip
Yeah,
phone,
sure.
like or like my first phone where the antenna pulled out.
Pulled out,
on
yeah,
the-
but it was the same size with the antenna pulled out.
yeah. So like
Little Nokia.
little Nokia, like
Yeah.
you could imagine, it'd be like here sitting in the dugout, you got the Nokia, and then like the new iPhone,
Sure,
right? So
sure.
like no one thinks the Nokia is cool, except AJ's like, whoa, is this your bat? And I was like, stop making fun of me. And he goes, no, this is awesome. I go, stop, just like, yeah, it's my bat. I'm old. That's a bat.
It's my
I
bat.
had since I
I
was
haven't broken it
yeah,
yet.
I have had since I was your age. And he's like, no, these are illegal. You can't use them. The technology got to a point in the late 90s, early 2000s where they were creating this ridiculous exit velocities with this bat, and people were getting hurt.
Oh, interesting.
So they were like, no, you can't play ball with those. They're not legal to use in games
Oh, okay.
because of how
Like a safety factor.
because of how fast the ball comes back off of it in relation to how fast the pitch was. Like it's
Sure.
the ratio's off,
Mm.
and it's too dangerous. Hot, just the bat's too hot, right? And he's like, "Can I use it?" And I was like, "Of course." Anyway, that's the day I almost died. I'm standing. I mean,
Just ripped one at your head.
yeah.
Yeah.
I barely had time to flinch, right? It came back at 100+ miles per hour, maybe in the 110s. I was closer than 60 feet, and I just like flinched. If it hit me right in the bicep, right down from the cap of my shoulder, like, so I guess a meteor part.
Yeah.
6 inches lower, it would have obliterated my elbow.
Ugh.
3 inches higher, it would have blown up my shoulder. 6 inches higher, it would hit me in the face.
Right.
It turned my entire arm from armpit to elbow and on down towards my
Deep
wrist.
purple.
Deep black purple on the inside. It sent a shockwave through my arm,
gosh,
right?
terrible.
And left 6 very, very, very pronounced, well-defined stitches on the outside of my arm.
Oh, gosh.
And
did you quit playing for the day?
we kept going.
With that bat?
No. That bat was then deemed that only with an L screen, only with a protective screen from the appropriate distances will we use that bat. Anyway, that's my story about the one time somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, is this yours?
Yeah.
This is so
See,
cool."
that's a cool story,
And
man.
I'm like, I stop making fun of me. That's why
That's
I
a
really
cool
I really
story.
thought he was mocking me.
Yeah.
Right?
That's because people generally mock you, so
Well.
you just kind of come with that stance with everything. See, that's good. That's a good example. Like you didn't, to you it's just your bat, but to other people it's like, holy cow, you have one of those,
Oh, then we broke it.
Then you broke it. Why would you break it? Not on purpose.
No, AJ blew the top right clean out of it.
Oh, wow.
And it needs a replacement, but I don't know where you get a replacement top for a
Old bat.
25-year-old bat.
So we're talking about this.
So
to
anyway, to wrangle it back
in. So we're talking about, how does this underestimating the value of something, how does this relate to the scripture that we read? And I think it really further in the story, Jesus is at a Pharisee's house. This Pharisee is not Simon. He's not really giving him the proper Midwestern,
Midwestern
hospitality, right? And this lady, this sinful lady, which we would probably say we're all sinful, but whatever, comes in and recognizes his worth,
blatantly,
right?
obviously sinful within the law, that they were all functioning and operating were very
overtly.
Everyone knows,
and
based on the law.
And so she recognizes Jesus's worth, but this Pharisee basically is not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I interpret the two perspectives there, So really, when we're talking about forgive and forget, which the forget part is, to us, you can't really forget it. Right. Like, I don't think that's like it's not really. So we keep saying forgive and forget, but in our mind, it's just about forgiveness, right? Like that phrase is terrible.
It's terrible
because you can never really forget what has happened, what transgressions ensued. And so really it's not about that. So I really dislike that terminology. We'll just say that off the bat. But I want to hit on what your opinion is, or what your thought process is about the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Because I think we get that wrong sometimes. Like, we look at forgiveness as this, like, Mitch, I forgive you, and then it's a big hug, and then you cry, and then you forget about it, and you go on like nothing happened.
Well, that might be closer to reconciliation,
right?
But forgiveness is internal. Forgiveness is personal. Forgiveness is you turning over, releasing any ill will, any grudge, anything. Not forgiving is only hurting you, right?
Yep.
Your lack of forgiveness isn't emotionally damaging to the other person. even if you think it is, even if you're like, oh yeah, I'm just sending the angry vibes, like it just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like eyeball laser beam side eye. Oh yeah, that's
Mhm.
getting them. No, that's doing way more internal emotional damage to you than you could ever like telepathically impose on
Yeah.
somebody,
Yeah.
right? So
Like my angry dish cleaning.
yeah, oh, just
Just scrubbing those dishes.
dishes. I'm gonna leave this lasagna plate out longer so it can really get stuck to it. And they'll scrub it.
Then I'll scrub it really
So
vigorously, angrily, and everybody's gonna know
everybody's
that
gonna know
that I'm upset
yeah,
about something.
yeah, and it's somebody else's fault,
Yeah.
and I'm holding on to that.
Hold on to it.
Yeah, so
Well, it hurts me.
yeah, that's the only, forgive. You should think of forgiving others as eating your spiritual vegetables. I just came up with that. It's good for you.
It's good for you.
It's
Sometimes
good
it
for
tastes
you.
good.
It's good for you in the long run.
It is.
It's good for you now.
Yeah.
It's high in fiber. It can help flush things out.
And I would say with this idea of forgiveness over reconciliation, because reconciliation really takes the two parties or more to come
Correct.
together and both kind of admit fault and then work past whatever happened, right? Forgiveness can be a one party thing,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't even have to involve the other
No,
person.
can give you freedom.
You don't have to call them and be like, hey, I forgive you for this, just FYI. It's really just releasing, those negative feelings and releasing that, like, you know what, like, I'm going to move past this, right? And I'm not going to hold this against that person anymore. And so have you ever been in a situation, and I think that it's also, you sometimes need to forgive yourself, right?
Mm.
Like sometimes you're the person that did the transgression, maybe to your own self, right? And then you have to be like, you know what, I'm gonna forgive myself of this because I can't just keep beating myself up. So what you ever been in a situation where you either needed to forgive someone else or yourself on something, and like what happened? How long did it take you to get through that process?
Mm. It depends on the degree of the relationships.
Oh, okay.
So, my closest relationships,
Mm-hmm.
like my nuclear family, like those in my household, I confront that stuff pretty forthright. Like, it eats me up. I can't.
Yeah.
I could get through like 2 silent dishes,
2 silent scrubbings.
and it'd be like, this is probably blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
We should talk about this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whereas, and this is the part, and then the other end of the spectrum is, and I'm not proud of this, but sometimes I will just like probably internally undervalue the relationship to a point that I'm like, well, guess we're going different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that about you.
Be like, oh, Keith didn't wave to me. Guess we're not friends anymore. Be like,
Yeah.
well, all right, now this is happening.
Yeah.
And not begrudgingly, not angrily, but like sometimes if there's something the emotional energy it may take to work it all out may not add up to the value of the potential future in the relationship.
Yeah.
Where
could see that.
when compared to the most important relationships of my life and those in
Sure.
my house, like, so it's almost like I go too extreme. The higher of the value I put on that relationship, to just the very minimal amount of time I like to spend in the unknown minutia of unforgiveness, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm an over apologizer.
You are.
It's a terrible affliction. I'm sorry.
Sorry for being over apologizing. I think I'm the opposite, right? Like my and this is this is a problem.
I'll apologize for something that wasn't even my fault, and you'll just like do the double blink at me.
Like whatever, dude. My problem is I sometimes put too much energy into, I don't want to say meaningless relationships, but for me, every relationship is important, and sometimes I over prioritize or over importantize a relationship, and I'll find that like I think we're better friends, right? Or better neighbors or whatever than what we really are. You know what I mean? And so I have this thing about,
I think Facebook ruined a lot of the world, but like,
I'm just boiling it down to that.
This
is like 2 weeks in a row we're bashing social media.
Sorry, and we're on a podcast,
and we're on Facebook
and social media.
So,
and I'm not saying cancel your account. You should cancel your account.
Says the guy that has to sign up for one. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, well, I cut you off, but you don't even know where you left, so you don't know how to regain.
I remember.
You do?
You're gonna have to apologize for this later.
All right. Well, you just hold on. You just hold on to that for just a second.
Go for it.
I don't think it did the world or us any favors by labeling acquaintances friends. This friend label that it because up until 2006 or whenever the thing came out, you knew who your friends were
because they were the ones that called you
or
showed up at your door.
You spent physical personal time with, like in existence or on a phone or in some sort of real communication.
Yeah.
And then you knew who your acquaintances were. You knew who they were. They knew who you were. You were acquaintances.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You knew some things about each other.
You saw them in the grocery store. You're like, what's up, man?
Yeah.
How's the kids?
Yeah. I think you have them.
Yeah. But
Right?
now all of a sudden you know everything about them.
Yeah.
And so you're like, we're friends.
Yeah.
We're friends now because I know that you guys went to Florida last week and had a great time. I saw the pictures. Yeah. Like, and now all of a sudden you've got this weird connection with them that really doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because they have no clue that you know all this stuff about
them.
Probably
that was my biggest problem. Like if I could just rewind time to 2007 where people are like, oh, you should get this thing because you can acquaintance people.
You can acquaintance people? You can acquaintance people.
Oh, I can acknowledge my acquaintance. Okay. Hello, acquaintance.
See, that's
acknowledged.
This is part of my problem, and I don't think it has anything to do with social media because I find social media very important. Like yesterday, great example, great use of social media. I always check about 5 o'clock. Shauna's coming home from downtown. I check the Keeping Kearney Informed to see if there's an accident on 35 it's backed up.
Yeah, it was backed up all the way. I had a kid with a dentist appointment.
Yeah. And so, like, I'll text her, be like, yo, avoid Liberty Hospital, and then she'll do some back roads or whatever. Sometimes by the time she gets there, it's cleared. Whatever.
Exactly what happened yesterday.
So I like, that's a great use of social media. We won't really get into it, but we had some social media stuff yesterday that was kind of good. There's really some good things that keep people informed of what's going on in the community.
Yeah, but that's
because back in the day, you'd have to pick up your phone and call a bunch of people. Anyway, so I think social media is great for that reason. Now,
I wasn't doing a full blown bashing. I was just doing the
to
friend,
your acquaintance
friend thing.
I have a problem with if you invite me to something, I feel like I have to go because we're friends.
Well,
And
that,
you invited me to something. Now, hold on.
as Grant would say, that sounds like an issue, not an ish me.
I know, but that's what we're talking about before, we started talking about Facebook, is that, see, you can isolate that and be like, well, this random person that I haven't talked to in forever has called me and been like, or texted me and been like, hey, we should go for lunch. I'm going to prioritize that way lower than my mom texting me and saying, hey, on the same day, do you want to go to lunch? Right? You know what I mean? Um, and I have a problem doing that sometimes. Now, I mean, granted, if it's someone in my nuclear circle, right, I'm gonna be like, yeah, sorry, bro, can't go. Kid's got a dentist appointment, whatever. But like, where if you and your wife had a 20-year wedding anniversary, and it's just gonna be this 1,000 person, 2,000 people, you're just inviting everybody, or whatever, and to you, it's like, I don't care if these 2,000 people show up or not, right? Like, you get 1,000 people there, you're not going to go, where's Bill? I haven't talked to him in 3 years. He should be here. You know what I mean? Like, to you, that doesn't bother you. To me, it would, right? And so I think that that's kind of where I get sometimes in that weird state, is that, like, to you, when you're like, Keith didn't wave at me, man, whatever. To me, it's like, Mitch didn't wave at me. Now I need to pour all this emotional resource into the relationship because somebody didn't because someone didn't wave at me.
Well, but you would know. You would know if we're feuding.
Would we?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Because you just got to ask. Just say, are we feuding? And then
you'd be like, yeah,
yeah,
scrub them dishes.
Yeah. That's actually, it's fun. I'm going to throw that out there. It's a little interpersonal tidbit. I have some friends that, they're those friends where you can just pick up where you left off,
sure,
no matter what,
yeah,
whether it's been a month or 6 years, right? You're like, oh man, I haven't, Yeah. So sometimes if we haven't talked in like months, years, right? You'll get this voicemail and be like, hey, are we feuding?
Are we feuding?
Yeah, especially if you didn't answer the phone. Like, they'll call and you don't answer. Oh, it'll be like a 4-minute long voicemail. Like, I don't know if we're feuding, but it sure feels like we're feuding. So,
yeah.
Or you'll get the we feuding text message.
We feuding for like a family. Yeah, I think kind of wrapping back around to the you said forgiveness is really kind of like a decision. It's an internal process that you have to make. It's not a feeling, right? Like it's this internal kind of like, hey, I'm going to make this decision to do this.
The big takeaway I came up with earlier, right off the cuff, forgiveness is eating your emotional fruits and vegetables. It's the healthy, responsible thing to do.
I think that there's another layer to it that I'm not going to say I came up with this on my own, because
like the fruits and vegetables thing?
did, yeah. But then later was kind of reminded in a situation of it.
So Jesus said
by somebody I was talking to. Sometimes, though, what you're all riled up about, what you feel like you need to forgive the other person for, is really benign, right? I'll give you a great example.
Ooh, love an example.
You have to know this about me by now, and if you don't,
we're gonna be feuding.
We'll be feuding.
All right.
I like my toilet paper roll.
Oh, I know. Over the top.
Over the top, right?
Because
not under the bottom, over the top.
Yeah. Because there's no logical, rational reason for it to go the other way.
Correct.
Except to frustrate people.
Me particularly. Now, what also really bothers me more than the underneath and over the top is someone that ran out of toilet paper, gets themselves a new roll, and sets the new roll on top of the cardboard and doesn't put it in the thing. It drives me absolutely bananas. Now,
I just see it as a great opportunity to to complete the task. It's really easy. Like, oh look,
See, this is the difference between
oh
you
look,
and me.
there's a roll of now I can put it on the proper way. There's no chance that it's going to come on backwards or upside down. Actually, there is, because there's something you have to do on the new roll.
You gotta take the thing off.
You have to start it.
Yep.
Just because sometimes you can be tricked.
Yes.
And I think that's
I
the
agree.
benefit of the doubt. I think possibly, maybe.
But that other person's already started it by taking it off, using it, and then sitting it back on. Anyways, here's my point, right?
the little glue strip's been broken.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've already used it.
Yeah.
They ran out. They used it. They didn't run out and didn't need more and thought they'd be like, oh, let me get a new rollout for the
Okay.
next person.
Okay.
Because if you're that thoughtful, you'll also put it on the thing, right? It was like this, oh, last sheet. Oh, I need more than just one little tiny square of toilet paper. Let me get this one out. Let me get some off of it. Let me use it. And then let me just set that roll right there.
Yeah, I'm like
Not okay.
I'm like the opposite. I would like go in to just like wash my hands and notice that the roll's like
Close to
low.
being done.
So then I'll put a new
New one
roll
on, and then put the old one on
put
top.
the old one on top.
I'm okay with that. That's very thoughtful in my opinion. Anyway, so it's the little things sometimes that drive you insane. And like a long time ago, in my mind, it's like, okay, like when my wife and I were dating, this may have occurred several times, right? And you have to talk to yourself about like, well, is this a deal breaker? I know it's kind of a benign example, but is this a deal breaker in our relationship? Right? Like if you have someone in your life that is like doing something that just annoys the absolute bajunk out of you, is that a deal breaker in the relationship or not? And if it's not, ignore it. Get over it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And for me, I need to be reminded of that quite a bit, because I'll have important relationships in my life where there's certain things about them. Like I got a friend who's always late. Always late. Like I'm not talking a couple of minutes. I'm talking 15, 20 minutes late or more. Always late. I had a friend that was like this. You'd ask him to help you move, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be like, hey, all right, hey, I'm moving apartments or whatever, 8 o'clock. We're going to load this thing up. Like 10:30, he rolls in, right? But then like when it's his turn to move, okay, and you're like, well, maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll wait another 30 minutes, right? 8 o'clock, okay. And then like 8:30, he's texting you, where are you at, man?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know what I mean? And so like you've got to be like, okay, is this relationship worth this time and energy, right? Like this, and if it's not, then you just move on. You know they're going to be late. You can't let it bother you. You anticipate that maybe, right, and work around it. Or to your point, if the relationship's not worth that emotional response, then you just end the relationship, right? Like you just push them away.
But see, there you go. There's your
You don't push
there's
them
your
away, but
there's
you-
your hard linedness.
Yes.
You're just
Black and
yes,
white, baby.
no, black and white. What is it? Is it?
You're my friend, not my friend.
Is this relation? No, it's like, dude, just let it. It's okay to be acquaintances. Like, hello, world of 2024. It's not friend or enemy.
No,
it's
I'm not saying friend or
acquaintances.
no. I'm not saying friend or enemy. I'm just saying like you then don't invite him to the holiday party. You just see what I'm saying? Like you just realize you're not friends anymore, right? Like you're acquaintances. You know each other. You'll say hi at the grocery store. You'll be polite to each other. You see him at a mutual friend's house at a party. You're like, what's up? How's it going? How's life? But you don't rely on them for anything. You don't rely on them for friendship, right? Like something bad happens to you, you don't call them up for emotional support.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You just like, okay, we're not really like stuff bothers me, so we just can't be deep friends
and there's
anymore.
all the different
We can be
stages. And
friendly.
there's all those different stages of life where, your different circles can expand or contract. Like it's
okay.
everything's way more fluid.
Yeah.
You're very rigid.
I am rigid. Is that a problem?
No, I'm just trying.
Do I need to forgive myself from
I'm just
rigidness?
Trying to help, man.
Maybe you're not rigid enough.
That is a true statement.
I'm just saying, maybe the problem's not mine.
Well, see, it's only a problem
Maybe
because you're calling
rigidity
it
is
out
okay.
as you're calling it out as a problem. It's bothering you.
Well, I forgive you for thinking that I'm rigid.
I wasn't apologizing.
Well, I think that, look at that. Sands of time are done. I think you want to throw out a final thought in this series, in this process about forgiving ourselves and
Yeah,
others.
take a roll call, an emotional roll call of the important relationships in your life that may be affected by your lack of forgiveness, and then belly on up to the table and eat your emotional, spiritual fruits and vegetables, friends,
All right. Well,
because it's good for you, you will
it
feel
is good
better.
for you. If you made it this far, hit that like button. Subscribe. We'll see you next week.
And if you're one of those folks out there that like to comment, feel free to use that spiritual, emotional fruits, vegetables of forgiveness. Feel free to use that. Work it into conversation. Let me know how it works for you.
All right. See you next week, guys.
Bye.